royal family isn't very inclusive, is it?
Odd. I mean, do you know, even somebody as dim as Prince Harry realised that it was a hierarchy. You know, there's actually a hierarchy in this thing, that you're not born free and equal if you're royal. It's a complete antithesis of that. It's also, in one sense, the antithesis of modern. It is the embodiment, literally, of our history. Now, I happen to think that history is also the basis of modernity. In other words, past and present aren't separated, and the whole act of monarchy, the Queen dies, the King succeeds, the seamless transition is exactly how change should happen and should be embodied in the coronation. I mean, my problem is that it all sounds as though it's going to be a bit like the Jubilee concert, or still worse, the opening of the 2012 Olympics, you know. It's going
They were really popular. The public loved those. You can't be that
but you know, it died. It looks now a mockery. This wonderful thing called the NHS. What are they going to do?
We're talking about the coronation.
Are we going to have doctors and nurses prancing up the aisle of Westminster Abbey?
Give them ideas.
When they've all gone on strike.
Femi's turn now.
When they've all gone on strike.
I agree.
You see, isn't it rather awkward?
Can we let...
Of course,
Femi...
of course.
Femi, can I ask you a question? How can you make, a hereditary monarchy diverse?
I mean, well, you can't, one, really. I mean, the reality is the royal family is... the one way you could make hereditary monarchy diverse is for someone within that monarchy to marry someone who was not white, which happened, and look at the huge amount of backlash that has had. Racially diverse or other types of diverse. You could have trending...
Diverse is kind of, I mean, I hate to say it, I've said it on BBC before, it's kind of boring. Like, diversity is in here, it's not on here.
Actually, chaps, just to interrupt quickly, the monarchy is so far ahead of us. Do you actually realise that two of the sons of Edward III, back in the 14th century, married families of Muslim descent? In other words, the king has actually got a right to be caliph. Quite seriously, they marry the daughters of Pedro the Cruel, who on one side of his family is of Muslim descent and Jewish descent. But can we be serious
we've
now?
Got to let Femi.
The reality of the matter is, the monarchy as an institution is, as has been said, in many ways representative of modern Britain, but that's not necessarily a good thing to have an institution which is representative of hierarchy, representative of having someone be seen as being better than someone else simply by virtue of which family they're born into and where within that family they're born into. The royal family, up until, I think, the 1960s or 70s, refused to let ethnic minorities work in front-facing roles in Buckingham Palace. It was a policy which was shown through documents to be an active policy, saying we're not letting ethnic minorities work in...
That's the 70s, we're 2023.
Well, the 70s is between these two coronations. So if we're harking back to the 50s, if we're harking back to the last coronation and saying things need to be as they were traditionally, then we're harking back to before the 70s. Tradition changes. One of the main things that Conservatives will say is that in order to change, we have to preserve. We have to cling to tradition in order to make actual change. The tradition of the monarchy used to be to cut off the monarch's wife's heads. The tradition of the monarchy used to cut off